Hello, everybody. Welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Hello, Josh. Now we've just seen the Xbox Game Showcase, which was a whole bunch of different stuff. We haven't even talked to each other other than hitting the recording button. So I want to go with your immediate thoughts, and then we'll get to everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good, Scott. I don't know what the rest of the world's going to react like. I remember liking the Inside Xbox Game Show that was on the other month.
The third-party one.
That was pretty good, the third-party one. And I thought this was a step up. For me, it didn't have the punch-the-air moments that the PS5 reveal did, but that had the added benefit of revealing the console, stuff like that. But honestly, I thought this was a strong showing with good variety and a lot of games that have made me a bit... Cool. I don't know, because I was going to get the PlayStation 5, and I didn't think there were any games that were going to sway me to the Xbox Series X at launch, but now I'm looking at these, and I'm thinking that if I don't get it at launch, there's going to be a few games that I might miss out on that I really, really want to play.
The thing that this confirmed for me is that they're playing completely different games, different marketing strategies altogether. Like, obviously, all the stuff that Phil Spencer said recently about, we don't care about exclusives and it's all about the wider variety of games. It's all about Game Pass and delivering everything to everybody. I went back to an old interview that he did with Giant Bomb a couple of years ago where they were talking about the sort of the initial seeds of that idea, and he was just saying that he wants to make sure that, if you and your friends want to play something, you've been talking about a game, he wants to make sure that everybody immediately has that game and you all have the same version and you can just play the thing and it works. And I think that this new strategy of just sort of, doing the smart delivery stuff where if you buy something on Xbox One, it immediately works on the SX. The whole thing of cross parity, you don't have to worry about upgrading because everything's going to work on the original Xbox One. He's very much doing the whole play for the living room thing. Where exclusives, quote unquote, don't matter, and you're just kind of bulking out this wide variety of titles. Because there were a lot of exclusives in this, for as much as all, as he said. But I don't know, man, nothing blew me away at all. And for me, and it doesn't even need to blow me away. I just need to go, that's cool. I really want to play that. There wasn't that much even on that level. Even the reveal of Halo, as soon as it cut to gameplay, I was like, this doesn't look that great. And it's not to crap on it or anything, but I am expecting something next level, something next generation. But then again, that's countered by everything that they're doing marketing-wise, where it's like, well, what even is the next generation? All we're doing is we're just Xbox. Don't worry about it. And they've just kind of got this whole mandate of resetting what Xbox even is, down to the fact that, this might as well be the first Halo. You've got pretty much the first Fable. You've pretty much got the first Forza happening again. And I don't know if that's a positive thing. It will be for all the newcomers and the people who, if they manage to dominate the living room. But I just kind of went, yeah, okay. It doesn't get me going. It doesn't get me excited. Whereas after the PS5 reveal, or even a Nintendo Switch Direct, I'm like, oh my God, that looks brilliant. I see what you guys are doing. This is just a weird thing. That this reminded me of Disney Plus's approach as opposed to a Netflix full of exclusives.
I know what you mean. In a way, I think it was quite safe, especially when it came to stuff like Halo. I thought Halo looked solid. I'm a big fan of, its kind of open world approach. I think that would be a breath of fresh air for this franchise, but it did, even in the shooting and the way you were kind of moving around the world, grappling hook aside, it felt very Halo, for better or worse. You know what I mean? For a lot of people, that might be what they want. I think, the similarities between Infinite's cover and the cover for Combat Evolved, that's a very direct thing of being look, this is classic Halo, but it's also next gen Halo because it's open world, it's got this verticality to it. And I thought it looked solid, I thought it looked good. I feel like part of me's just grown beyond Halo at this point. I used to love it. It used to be entirely my thing, but there's, like you said, there was nothing there that properly blew me away. And it's interesting that they're going down this kind of revamp, like you said, they're almost resetting the Xbox brand. And I'm a big fan of that. I think if you sort of hit that button and you have just Halo Infinite, it's not Halo 6. You've just got Fable, you've just got Forza Motorsport, and you do something interesting and next level with those IP. With that IP, I think for me that would be good for the Xbox brand, but we just didn't see enough of it here. And it sounds like I'm crapping on it, but it's just kind of what I expected. But that's kind of in a good way, to be honest, because I do come away from this more confident about the Xbox brand than I did before it.
I'm more confident about the brand overall because I see exactly what they're doing now, where it's just, here's a bunch of games, as many games as we can. They were very much playing the diversity card in terms of genres and everything, game mechanics and different variety of protagonists and everything. And that stuff looks really rich and good, and that's a good sort of way to go, look, this is what video games offer to the world. Here's a bunch of different games that you can get lost in. And like I said, I see that approach to it. But at the same time, I think they dropped the ball on quite a lot of things that could have been big head turners. Like Hellblade 2 is one of the only things that's been talked about in regards to the next generation of Xbox, and they just revealed it was in Iceland, which is great. Love Iceland. But they didn't show any more gameplay. Like, they just showed very little. It was a few location shots, and that was about it. And even Fable, for whatever that is, we know that's been in development for a good sort of 3 years at this point. Got a title reveal and a hint towards the tone, and kind of confirmation that they're carrying on the sort of comedic tone of Fable. But that was it. And I remember I messaged you during it. I was like, are they allergic to showing gameplay? Like, just show something in engine other than...
Yeah, you're totally right. I was disappointed with that kind of one more thing being Fable, because I thought they might have put that at the beginning, because I feel like we're in a kind of spot where we know about the rumors, we know about the leaks, so we sort of give Fable's kind of, Fable's position at the show, we kind of took it for granted in a way. But I wonder whether that kind of resonated more with people who weren't really expecting it and then saw this CG trailer and thought, yes, Halo's back. It's a reboot? What's going on? You know what I mean? And I'm looking forward to that game, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from it. And I think that's how I would sum up the entire show. I liked most of what I saw. I want to see more from State of Decay 3. I want to see more from Fable. I want to see more bloody Forza. I'm not really a racing game fan, but I thought, if anything's going to show off the power of the next generation of Xbox, it's going to be something like Forza Motorsport. But I just didn't see enough. I didn't see enough of those first party things.
That's the thing. Like I said, they're just sort of playing for this very wide swath of titles, and it's like if you want to, like the spending model too. It's like they're putting so many chips on Game Pass, where you pay the 1 monthly fee and you get everything. You get the new Halo and everything that they showed. That's a hell of a deal. Like Game Pass right now is still one of the best deals going, and we're not sponsored by them whatsoever, but it is an incredible deal. And I like, it makes kind of business sense. Like putting more into that. They announced that the xCloud stuff is just going to be tied into that, so you'll be able to stream the new Halo to your phone or whatever. All of that is in one big monthly fee. And so I get if you were new to gaming or you were curious about getting into gaming overall as an art form, as a medium, you might just go down the Xbox route because you might not do enough sort of research to look into why you would want to get a Switch or a PlayStation. So it just seems like a crazy gamble, but I see exactly what they're doing. And we should also talk about Avowed, which is the new RPG from Obsidian, the thing that a lot of people just expected they would do. And as soon as they showed footage of it, I think it's all CG. I don't think it could be in game, but I'm pretty sure it's CG. I messaged you and I was like, this is hilarious, because immediately you had Obsidian versus Bethesda has kind of been this thing for the last few years, only based on the fact that they did New Vegas, didn't get their bonus for it. And I've always thought if you were working for Obsidian and you kind of got screwed out of the bonus money they should have got for developing that game, and the time window Bethesda gave them to create it. Now you look at them and it's like, okay, we're just going to do Fallout better than you with Outer Worlds, and now we're just going to do Elder Scrolls better than you or quicker than you because you're not going to have an Elder Scrolls ready for another 10 years. What did you think of the reveal of Avowed?
Big fan. Like, I love that they just came out and they announced essentially 3 projects. They announced the Outer Worlds DLC, they announced that really weird survival game, and then they announced Avowed, which is their new major RPG. And we were kind of laughing that even if they're not intending it, I think that's what a lot of people are going to run with, because the Outer Worlds did feel like a spiritual successor to Fallout and Fallout New Vegas. And because of the similarities in kind of like setting, this is obviously being compared to the Elder Scrolls. And even though we did only see that CGI trailer, like, I've got enough faith in Obsidian that I'm just excited for whatever they have. And I know it's set in the Pillars of Eternity kind of like series, but it's obviously very different from that game's isometric style. But at the same time, like, I just want to see more of it. I just want to see more of it. You know what I mean? And I know it's probably a long ways out. They've just finished the Outer World. They're doing DLC. They're doing all these different projects. But it seems like this is the game that they needed Microsoft for. I think they said in the post-trailer kind of reveal that Microsoft went to the developers and essentially said, look, what's the one game that you want to make that you might not have been able to make? And then they said it was this one. So that gets me excited that they finally have the resources and the budget to give us something of this scale that is hopefully really refined, really good, and really expansive.
if they can do anything that even gets close to Elder Scrolls, like on that scale, on that level of playability, I mean, Skyrim practically froze the earth for a bit while we all sort of just stared at it and went, "Oh my god, this is brilliant." Obviously, that was a big build-up over the years, but yeah, with Bethesda sort of waning, someone else could just step in and be like, "By the way, you want that experience? It's over here." But yeah, there was quite a few different things, like we said before. There's a big diversity in genres, which was great to see. I also sort of want to pick out Rare's new game, Everwild. Because like that, I mean, I'm glad that they're doing something that is sort of a more immediately cartoonish, like lots of different variety of creatures and stuff like that, just because I thought Sea of Thieves was such a swing and a miss. And I know that they've brought it back since then, and a lot of people recommend going back to Sea of Thieves now. But at launch, that game was like an immaculate 20 minutes and then not much else. Whereas this thing feels like you've built another world from the ground up, and it's not even playing from something like pirate fiction or whatever. It just looked great.
Yeah, I mean, I have a weird relationship with Rare games because every single time I see them at a conference like this, I go, "Ooh, that looks really good," and then they come out to lukewarm reviews, and I never get around to playing them, which is a huge shame. But this is beginning that cycle again, where I saw it and I thought that looks really neat, like the art style looks really good. You know, even though I don't really play many modern Rare games, I still have a lot of fondness for that studio, and I want them to do well. So it wasn't like a major highlight for me, but it was another kind of like strong little golden nugget in otherwise what I thought was a mostly, like I said, a strong show.
Yeah, we can just sort of highlight a couple of other things. I've got a big old list, and we'll end up doing more stuff on the website and maybe follow-up stuff as well, because we do have a podcast tomorrow as well. But wanted to quickly mention Psychonauts 2, which just, I still think Double Fine are one of the best gets for the Xbox brand in terms of just how characterful, and I just adore Tim Schafer. Him and Jack Black is one of the best combos in gaming. What did you think of the Psychonauts showing?
Yeah, I mean, it's another kind of like developer that obviously has this huge following and stuff, but I haven't played too many Double Fine games or LucasArts games.
Get yourself on Brutal Legend, mate.
I know you love Brutal Legend, but it was good. It was good to see the trailer. It was good to see Jack Black there. Had a big fan. I had a big fan. Was a big fan.
You had a large fan. You wanted to talk about Stalker as well, because they announced Stalker 2, and that looked like a very Metro-esque. I think it predates Metro, but it was very like, what struck you about that?
Well, just the fact that, like, because I'm sure, like, they've got it just for the Xbox. I think that's what they said. Just the fact that they've got it, you know what I mean? Like, Stalker is this kind of, like, hardcore cult classic PC favorite. And the fact that that Microsoft has nabbed the sequel, and it looked really interesting and really good from what we saw there, even though it was only a short trailer. I just thought that was an interesting left field thing that I wasn't expecting. Maybe I'm just not into that kind of realm of gaming, and maybe this was completely obvious to everyone, but for me, that kind of turned my head and go, oh, hang on, I didn't expect this at this show. Like when we were doing predictions this morning, I didn't expect to see Stalker 2 kind of being announced. And there were a few other games like that, a few other kind of interesting new IP from like respected indie developers, I suppose. We had the new one from Bloober Team, The Medium, which might be my game of the show. I thought that looked so awesome, like the inventive split screen mechanics. Anything that uses video game systems and mechanics like that in interesting and unique ways always has like my eye, and the fact that Bloober Team have made some really good horror games previously makes me really excited for that one. But also the new game from the Life is Strange developers, Don't Nod.
Yes, Tell Me Why it's called, which I thought was going to be Life is Strange 3, but I was so glad to see them do a whole new engine for that. It looks great.
Dude, because I was typing up these news reports while we were watching the show. I already, when it came up, I was so confident it was Life is Strange 3. I had the headline written out that they announced it, and I was starting to write it, and I thought, oh no, this isn't a sequel. This isn't the same thing. But it's so in that
definitely in that vein.
Yeah, that's kind of like supernaturally infused family drama, I suppose. And I thought like the central mystery of that looked really kind of intriguing, so I'm excited to see where that one goes.
Yeah, man. Life is Strange 2, like they're not afraid to go into sort of darker subject matter and just gut punch you out of nowhere. Life is Strange, for as much as Telltale obviously kind of went off the boil, or it's like, you know, their sequels and follow-up games just didn't sell. I kind of feel like Don't Nod have sort of picked up the ball a little bit and just gone like, look, if you want that style of gameplay done immaculately well with great stories, like they're brilliant. And we should talk about CrossfireX, because we talked about this when we were watching it, but that's such a weird thing. I couldn't believe that's Remedy's next game. For everything that they've done before, this like weird online multiplayer like arena shooter thing that then has a story mode bolted on. The multiplayer is free, it's on Game Pass, but the single player is going to be have a separate price tag. What did you think of everything regarding Remedy doing online multiplayer?
Well, I've learned to not doubt Remedy, Scott Tilford. Even when they make something like Quantum Break, you know what I mean? I think there's always an interesting idea behind their games. And even though a multiplayer-focused, first-person shooter, team-based thing isn't something that immediately springs to mind when I think of this studio, I thought the gameplay trailer, the trailer that mimicked gameplay, looked,
gameplay?
I don't know what it looked too good to be gameplay in a way for me. I think parts of it were, but I don't know whether there was any manipulation going on, but I thought it looked like really kinetic and really tactile, like their games always are.
My thing with Remedy is always their world building. Like, I mean, Control's world building is immaculate. If you want to get lost in a world of just mythology and audio diaries and text entries and this whole fiction that they sort of, like write, and you sort of focus on one tiny part of it for one game with so much more to be told later. That's what they do the best for me, that's almost anathema to online multiplayer because you're not going to take a world in when you're playing online. But maybe they've got grand plans for it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember seeing, I think it was at the start of the year where they announced, I think it was to shareholders, what their plans for the upcoming financial year was. And part of it was to continue Control, and it was to do this kind of smaller multiplayer thing. And I remember thinking at the time that it might not be for me, I might just wait for a Control 2 or the next IP or something. But I don't know, man, I feel like you can have these two different styles of Remedy experiences existing side by side if they're done well, as long as one doesn't take away from the other. And the fact that it's coming out at the end of this year, at least the multiplayer side is, it's another one of those things where I'm like, man, if I don't get an Xbox this year, I'm going to be looking at that and thinking I could be playing this right now.
I'm really curious whether they tie this into anything else, because Alan Wake is now part of the Control universe, that they're both connected. I don't know if Max Payne is as well, but we know that Alan Wake and Control are the same thing. It's worth pointing out that Phantasy Star Online 2 got confirmed. We don't play that or haven't played that, but I know that's a huge deal to that fandom. And so in that, Phil Spencer himself said he was always trying to get back on the brand. And things like Ori got 120 frames per second mode. That's going to be auto added on the Series X. But yeah, overall, what were your sort of thoughts in comparison to the PS5 showcase that we got, whatever it was, a few weeks ago?
I feel like when it comes to Microsoft's past couple of showings, it feels like one big showing that's been fragmented down, if that makes sense. It feels like one incredibly strong showing that's kind of been piecemealed and kind of stitched into these separate little content drops, I guess. So because of that style and because we kind of already knew what to expect going into it, there was no major, there was no even Resident Evil 8 style thing, certainly no Spider-Man Miles Morales style reveal or anything. So if I'm comparing it directly to the PlayStation 1, it's not quite there. I just think it's a very, very solid, if potentially occasionally uninspired showing. But like I said at the beginning, it has made me more excited for the Xbox Series X and what Phil Spencer's doing with these studios in general.
It makes me super curious what their overall plan is for the next few years. How do you maintain this going forward? How do you maintain interest in a new console? It's strange because, like I said to you when it finished, I was like, what are they telling people? What is the reason to buy a Series X when everything works on the Xbox One X or whatever it is anyway? And they kind of have a few exclusives, but potential exclusives, but you can't access them on the current generation stuff. I think it's such a weird way to go about it. And either, like we've said in other videos, that's either genius 4D chess style, and he's on a level above the idea of exclusives and the way that the industry's worked for the last few decades, or it's just trying to embrace a negative in the way that they went across the last few years too much, and quote unquote Sony have already won the next console war or whatever. So it's weird. It's
so hard to even gauge it anymore because, back in 2013 where we had the two big reveals, it was so easy to just directly compare the two biggest competitors. But now, like you said, Microsoft is playing this 4D chess game, almost playing a completely different game to Sony. Totally. So it's much harder for me to directly compare the two approaches. But when you see two kind of just conferences as is in the classic style like these are, I feel like, as much as, we often get called out for being Sony fanboys, Scott Tilton, but I do feel like, Sony had the upper hand, at least for this one, but they also benefited from showing the reveal, and it was their first showing of PlayStation 5 games. This is the second time Xbox has showed these games off. In some cases, you know, it's the third or fourth time in the case of like Halo or Hellblade, for instance.
I think that some of those complaints about, like, you know, we get more carried away with Sony stuff is because, especially in the case of the last PS5 thing, they were just upfront, like, here's some Spider-Man gameplay, here's the next Horizon in-engine thing, like, here's all these things that are geared towards blowing you away, whereas Xbox's thing is very much teasers for what's to come, logo reveals, CG trailers, things that they want you to come back for later. And I just thought, considering you have the world's attention when you've been talking about it for weeks on end, and a few 100,000 people, you know, across so many different languages that they had around the world watching it at once, for me, they could have done a lot better in terms of gameplay stuff and things, big takeaways. Because the big takeaway is pretty much Halo, and the bottom line for that is, yep, they made a Halo, which... that's fine, but I just kind of expected a bit more. But yeah, let us know anything down in the comments below. Where do you come down on the Xbox Series X showcase versus what Sony have shown with the PS5? And do you like the general sort of mandate that they're going with in regards to trying to take over the living room for the Xbox going forward? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time.
Bye.